Good morning, everyone. It's a beautiful Monday morning. It's very sunny, but it's also very cold. It's 1 degree right now, and I've just gotten back from my first lecture of this semester, and I guess this calendar year. So I'm excited to get back out into the sun, but first I need to do this book review. So let's get started. So welcome back to the second book review of the 50 book challenge. I'll continue to be uploading a book review every single Monday, so stay tuned for that. Every week I'll discuss the book that I'm currently reading, and today I'm following from last week's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Today we will be discussing The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. This book has been recommended to me by numerous people, and it seems to have quite a significant reputation, whether that's for good or bad reasons, so I was interested to see what value it could provide to me. In this book, I'll begin by providing a summary of the book using the concept, but I'll also paraphrase and provide some of my own examples to help ease your understanding. In the second section of the video, I'll provide my thoughts and feelings surrounding the book, and I'll also say whether I recommend you read the book or not. Finally, I will conclude by announcing next week's book that I'll discuss. You can use the markers at the bottom of the video if you'd like to skip through. Before we begin, I'd like to make it clear that this book is directed towards men with a masculine essence. This idea will be elaborated on within the book. However, this does not mean that the book is only applicable to men. What it does mean, however, is that this book takes the stance of discussing ideas in heterosexual relationships from the perspective of a man. These ideas can be shifted to different contexts simply by identifying the masculine and feminine individual in a relationship. For the sake of this book review, I'll reflect Deida's ideas as they've been written down, and will trust that you can adapt it according to your own situation. The Way of the Superior Man is broken down into 8 parts. There are many subsections or chapters in each part of the book, so I'm going to discuss the main points instead of each chapter for the sake of time. Part 1. A Man's Way. Deida starts part 1 by suggesting that you need to stop hoping for a completion of anything in your life. He mentions that many people live life with a mindset that if I can work enough, then one day I can rest, or that I'm only doing what I do right now so that one day I can afford to do what I actually want to do. He says that this will never come to an end, and that you'll never start doing what you want to do unless you start doing what you want to do. This doesn't require a huge behavior change or career overhaul. He simply suggests devoting a minimum of 1 hour a day towards doing what you actually want to do. During this 1 hour, give all your effort and try your hardest to fully exploring your dream. If you find that you can't do this, or that you don't want to, then perhaps your fantasy future life is simply that, a fantasy. It might be worth revisiting this idea and rethinking your life plans. David mentions a morbid but potentially beneficial idea. He suggests that you live as if your father were dead. For the next 3 days, he challenges you to do at least one activity a day that you have avoided or suppressed because of the influence of your father. Next, Deida suggests the importance of operating at your very edge. I believe this to be a valuable topic, and I've personally engaged with this idea numerous times, even prior to reading the book. The concept essentially suggests that you should acknowledge your fears and always push yourself to operate slightly outside of your comfort zone, although not too far beyond it. If you operate on the edge of your comfort zone, you'll see great results of improvement because you're constantly challenging yourself. However, if you take on a task that's too overwhelming, you'll struggle to succeed in doing it, and so you won't reap the benefits of this task. On a similar note, you must identify who you are deep in your core. It's important to understand why you're here and what you feel like your life purpose is. This is, of course, not predetermined, and you are capable of making this decision. However, upon identifying what you want to provide to the world, you should make it your utmost priority. Everything in life should come secondary to this, even love. This idea is developed on farther in the book. Although love and other endeavors might be fulfilling, you'll still feel empty inside if you've not figured out what your ultimate purpose is. Deida mentions that you should never change your mind just to please a woman. This context can of course be applied to anybody, not just women. However, in the context of this book, it's directed at masculine individuals and focuses on their polarity with feminine individuals. This idea simply suggests that if somebody provides a suggestion to you, you should take in their words and then reconsider, but still result in you making the final decision. This allows you to feel comfortable in whatever decision is made, but it also prevents you from displacing the blame onto somebody else if something goes wrong. This idea holds you accountable for your actions. Deida additionally touches on the idea of doing it for love. In this idea, he essentially discusses how if you're going to do something, put your all into it. Whether this is in regards to your career, your purpose, or your relationships, don't just take the parts that benefit you and then back out. You won't be fulfilled unless you give your all to the world and fully commit to what you're doing. A valuable concept explored in this book is that you should value your friend's criticism. If you want to be the best person you can be, it's important to firstly identify and befriend other people who have similar wishes. You can then hold each other to that standard. Support alone won't help you reach your goals. You need a challenge, a loving challenge, and guidance to complete that challenge is what you should seek out. You should be prepared to change your life. If you haven't discovered what you wish to do with your life yet, each attempt is essentially like uncovering a layer to that purpose. I'd like to clarify that the idea here isn't that you have one purpose in life. One man can have many different things that he's satisfied doing. However, to achieve satisfaction in life, choosing one thing to dedicate yourself to is a great way to achieve it. Be willing to change things as you uncover your deepest desires and identify what you wish to dedicate your life towards achieving. Putting your goals first in life doesn't diminish your social and family life. In fact, it enhances it. If you want to be an inspiring role model for your child and desired by your partner, having goals and working towards them will strengthen these relationships. Therefore, don't use your family as an excuse for not working on your goals. Rather, use them as fuel to get where you want to be. Part 2. Dealing with women. Deida introduces part 2 by discussing how women aren't liars when they seemingly don't keep their word. He suggests that keeping your word is a masculine trait, both in men and women. He therefore suggests that when someone with a feminine essence makes a statement such as, "I hate you," or "I'll never move to Texas," it's rather a reflection of how they feel in the moment rather than a definitive statement. I've heard this concept joked about on numerous occasions in regards to when girlfriends steal food from their boyfriend's plate after saying that they aren't hungry. Deida moves on to suggest that masculine and feminine energies grow through different methods. He states that the masculine grows by challenge, whereas the feminine grows by praise. Making an objective statement, such as stating that someone would be healthier if they exercised more, might work as a way of motivating a masculine individual, but could be offensive to a feminine one. Instead, praising them for their actions, such as mentioning that you find them attractive when they exercise, can motivate the same behavior. Ultimately, if the goal of the relationship is for both of you to improve yourselves, learning how to praise is a valuable skill. Deida addresses the idea that simply tolerating your partner leads to you resenting her. When your partner is in a bad mood, simply tolerating or putting up with this mood will lead you to have negative thoughts and will build up tension between you. Instead, Deida suggests finding joy in these negative moments, simply by embracing your partner's mood and finding a way to cheer them up. He suggests things like sing opera for her or make animal sounds. Ultimately, find a way to brighten up the situation instead of simply tolerating the mood. The importance of listening is also mentioned here. When your partner comes to you with a problem, they typically don't want you to resolve their problem. It's natural for men to want to solve their own problems, but when it comes to your partner, there's significant value in simply listening. Simply be present in the situation and show your partner that you love them. This will likely provide much greater results than asking lots of questions and trying to identify the root of the problem. If the problem is of greater significance, you can address these issues once your partner has cheered up. However, make it a priority to listen to what she has to say first and show her that you love her. Part 3. Working with Polarity. In Part 3, Deida suggests the idea that your sexual essence is always attracted to its energetic reciprocal. This might be displayed through a masculine man and a feminine woman, a feminine man and a masculine woman, or a balanced man and a balanced woman. He suggests that attraction and sexual desire towards your energetic reciprocal is natural and healthy, and not something you should seek to minimize. If you have a negative attitude towards this attraction, it's likely that it's because you've been conditioned to think this way, learning that this attraction is inherently bad or evil. As an alternative, Deida suggests simply enjoying this attraction and appreciating the value that it provides to your life and the satisfaction it brings you. In a similar vein, choose a woman who is your complementary opposite. Deida mentions how masculine people are typically attracted to the carefree nature of feminine people, in which they can express their emotions openly and be free of strict rigidity in their lives. However, this emotional nature will lead to a seemingly undesirable trait in which emotion takes precedence over logic. To many men, this may be an unattractive feature. Deida talks about how some men may exclaim, "Why can't a woman be more like a man?" However, in order to get true satisfaction out of this type of energy, you need to accept and appreciate the full package. You can't have somebody who satisfies everything you seek for. Of course, this type of person is capable of displaying control, but this is not their natural state, and they will therefore only exercise such control when necessary. Therefore, choose somebody who exhibits the opposite energy to you, and learn to appreciate it in its entirety, understanding that the elements you dislike are necessary in order to present the existence of the elements you do like. In reference to the concept of polarity, Deida mentions how you should identify a main purpose that the relationship provides to you. After identifying this main purpose, the other aspects of the relationship will build themselves around this purpose. If you have identified that you want your relationship to bring you emotional and sexual satisfaction by giving you the opportunity to love and feel loved, then you should fulfill your other desires elsewhere. If you and your partner share multiple aspects of intimacy, such as business, friendship, parenting, and sexual passion, this can reduce the polarity present within your relationship. Therefore, the intimacy in this relationship will degrade as you begin to lose the feelings you once had, and your relationship becomes utilitarian. Instead, dedicate your relationship to fulfilling a specific purpose and fulfill your business and friendship desires elsewhere to maintain this polarity. As Deida writes, the more you seek a woman who gives you everything, the less you get of anything. Part 4. What women really want. In this part of the book, Deida discusses the idea of choosing a woman who chooses you. The core premise here is that you shouldn't chase after somebody who doesn't seem interested in you. As he writes, you are only punishing yourself when you want to be in a relationship with a woman more than she wants to be in a relationship with you. He suggests that this is because the poles have been reversed in regards to intimacy between a man with a masculine essence and a woman with a feminine essence. This is because this pursuit of a woman takes away from the purpose of your own life, shifting your priorities. Deida further builds upon this idea, stating that although a woman might appreciate when you give things up to be with her in the moment, this will prove to be unfulfilling in the long term. In the context of your relationship, it will become evident that if you make your partner your number one priority in life, you will become complacent in other areas of your life. This is something that everyone will be able to recognize, including your children. Therefore, you need to have your purpose at the forefront of your life and plan your life around it. He suggests that the more ambiguous you seem, both financially and spiritually, the more that your partner will need to pursue their own goals and become less reliant on you. This is, of course, good for your partner if it helps increase the satisfaction of their life and pursue their direction. However, if it burdens them with great levels of stress and makes them unhappy, it means that they're pushing themselves away from their own desires and taking on a responsibility that you should be fulfilling. Therefore, Deida ends this part by stating you can become more responsible, not necessarily by doing more work, but by understanding your deepest purpose and aligning your life with it to ensure you're taking the necessary steps to achieve it. As long as your partner can recognize that you're arranging your life in the necessary direction, she will be able to trust you and release the burdens she's taken on due to your lack of direction. Another point Deida mentions in this part of the book is the idea that in relationships, your partner might say something when they don't actually mean it. For example, your partner might test your ability to stay focused on your goals and intentions by asking you to do something that goes against what you aim to do. If you change your behavior to fulfill this request, it demonstrates that you might not be determined to achieve your ultimate desire, as you can be influenced by external sources. Part 5, your dark side, and Part 6, feminine attractiveness. In these two sections, Deida discusses how the essential masculine ecstasy is in the moment of release from constraint. This is represented through the desire to compete in competitive sports, war, meditation, among many other factors. All of these activities involve defeating something or conquering it. He mentions that the typical masculine desire for freedom involves the feeling of death, suggesting that the attachment to comfort and security is what limits most men in their capacity to make a spiritual touchdown. Deida mentions how the feminine desire, however, is fullness. He puts it into context, stating that after orgasm, a man has successfully achieved his release, and he will go to bed. However, the woman might remain unfulfilled, as she has a desire to experience love and fullness. He goes on to address how your partner wants, as he states it, the killer in you. What he says here is that your partner wants you to display confidence and strength in moments of fear or despair. This might perhaps be something as simple as killing a cockroach versus running away and asking her to do it. However, he talks about how this could be represented through the ability to meet his woman with consciousness equivalent to her energy. This essentially means that if she's upset or angry, you shouldn't simply discuss this with her or learn to tolerate these moods. Instead, he suggests not aiming to please her, but rather embracing the emotions by displaying your love through your action. This may be achieved through walking up to your partner and physically embracing them, holding them, and showing them that you love them. This is better than simply telling your partner that you love them or telling them to cheer up. Deida also suggests that the feminine is abundant. Here, he addresses the idea that some people may suggest that there's a shortage of feminine women. He suggests that if someone experiences this feeling, it's merely because they're not appreciating the feminine energy around them. You can simply appreciate the presence of women around you. You need not show them that you're doing anything special, but simply appreciating their existence and the energy they provide you with can lead to greater fulfillment. In this part of the book, Deida also mentions the idea that when you fall out of love with someone and the relationship has become neutralized, many people will see this as a time to move on and find somebody else who fulfills their new desires. However, he suggests that a superior approach is to reignite the passion in this relationship. Even if the last thing you want to do is be around this person, her interests are still there. If she likes to dance, dance with her. The superior man will make it his duty to provide the relationship and the world with his gifts. However, sometimes it's right to move on. This is when you feel as though your next direction is clear, will empower you, and enable you to continue contributing to the world. However, if you wish to move on simply because you're not prepared to invest the time and energy into repairing the relationship, or leaving it as soon as it starts to degrade in quality, Deida suggests rethinking this approach. Part 7. Body Practices, and Part 8. Men's and Women's Yoga of Intimacy. There are a few practices in Part 7 of the book that relate to sexual intercourse that I'm not going to discuss here, but if you're interested in reading about them, I recommend looking it up or reading this part of the book. Essentially, in summary, it's just ideas about breathing exercises and physical exercises, I suppose, that you can practice, and it also has a spiritual link, so if that's something that interests you, then go look it up. In Part 7, Deida discusses the importance of breathing down the front. What he means by this is that during the day, we tend to tense and tighten the front of our body with hunched posture, shallow breaths, and a tense jaw. He stresses the importance of breathing from your diaphragm and stomach, feeling the breath spread down the front of your body. So to try this, you can put your hand on your stomach and breathe. If you notice that you're breathing from your chest, as in your chest is going up and down, shift this to your stomach. Intentionally practice this breathing exercise for a few minutes each day. Breathing from your diaphragm makes your voice more powerful, and if you don't do this and you breathe from your chest, your energy won't be able to flow throughout your entire body. Consequently, you won't have open body language and you won't present yourself confidently. In Part 8, Deida addresses the idea that it's important to understand the differences in an intimate relationship between men and women. He mentions how some men feel guilty for not being as into the relationship as their partner. However, he suggests that the core difference here is that the masculine desire revolves around their goals and ambitions, whereas the feminine desire revolves around love. As a result, when a man is having troubles in his relationship, he might escape to work to get away from it. However, when a woman has the same troubles, they'll continue to haunt her the whole day. The point here is that if you honor the primary asymmetry in intimacy, both members of the relationship can concentrate on their true desires, rather than coming to a compromise due to an imaginary truce between genders. Embracing the differences between you and your partner in a relationship will strengthen the relationship more than trying to be equal in the relationship. Play into each other's strengths and take advantage of what you offer to one another. Deida further reinforces the idea that your masculine gift is to know where you are, where you want to be, and what you need to do to get there. He mentions this to present the idea that you are responsible for the growth in intimacy. What he intends to convey in this point is that if your partner is going through a tough time, or there's a conflict in your relationship, you should work to identify the solution and then find a way to implement the solution. Giving your partner space to be miserable rather than making the effort to fix the issue won't benefit the relationship. And if your partner doesn't want to receive your efforts to improve the relationship, why would you want to be with her? One of the final points Deida makes includes the idea of insisting on practice and growth. He writes how you are entirely responsible for cutting through your own laziness, addictions, and unclarity. There is nothing to wait for and nobody to blame. He discusses how if you don't take direction in your relationship, your partner will. However, since at your core, you are masculine, this display of masculine energy on your partner's behalf will lead you to bash heads, ultimately leading to conflict. Deida brings the book to a conclusion by stating that men and women should restore their energy by being surrounded by their respective energies. As you spend time with your partner, you'll begin to pick up behaviors from each other that are distinctly masculine or feminine. In order to maintain your respective energy, it's important that you have other men in which you're able to surround yourself with, and she has women that she could surround herself with. Additionally, being able to spend time in solitude is important, as it helps you align yourself with your deepest desires. Deida addresses how it can be beneficial for men to reclaim their inner feminine energy, and that this is a large component of the modern men's movement. He suggests that this practice can be fulfilling to people who are stuck in the rigidity of their lives and do not allow the flow of joy and sharing. However, for a man who's lost his sense of purpose, this isn't the solution. The solution to this is to live at your edge and continue to challenge yourself until you identify what it is you seek to achieve. This means to challenge yourself and eliminate comforts. This doesn't have to be a permanent change, but providing yourself with a few weeks in which you eliminate the elements of comfort in your life, such as TV, sex, candy, and video games to name a few, you'll be forced to address the aspects of your life that are unsatisfactory. You can no longer hide behind these comforts. You instead have to take responsibility for fixing the elements in which you're falling behind. I'll end this summary with the quote, "Unadorned suffering is the bedmate of masculine growth. Only by staying intimate with your personal suffering can you feel through to its source." In regards to my thoughts, after reading this book, I recognize that some of the ideas here can be quite controversial, and many people might suggest that it's misogynistic in nature. And I can understand this apprehension towards the book, but I do think that people who take this view might not have fully understood the meaning of the book in its entirety. So Deida suggests that this book isn't specifically for the male/female dynamic, but rather refers to the masculine/feminine dynamic as a whole. He implies that a woman can take on the masculine role in the relationship, with the man taking on the feminine role, as long as a sense of polarity exists. I was pleasantly surprised by how much I actually enjoyed reading this book. Each principle is usually barely longer than a page, so it's a book you can easily pick up and read on the go. Additionally, I simply just enjoyed David Deida's writing style, as it managed to engage me thoroughly. There were times when I found the advice given kind of hard to understand or see how I would actually implement it into my life. Deida talks about breathing exercises in which you breathe in a circular motion with energy traveling up your spine on the exhale, and I don't doubt that such a sensation is possible. However, I wasn't able to grasp this concept simply from reading the text. And I also struggle to see how Deida separated the concepts discussed in the book into a relationship dynamic versus a work dynamic. For example, the idea that a polarity between masculine and feminine individuals should exist in a relationship might be true, but I didn't fully understand how this can be applied and maintained during work or school interactions. I've recently been interested in reading books relating to spirituality, and this book seems to have scratched that itch. I'm not religious and I'm not a spiritualist, but I found the area of discussion particularly interesting recently, and I found that the ideas discussed here might still be beneficial to me. The way I always view books is to take the beneficial things from them and leave the rest of the information. There's always something to learn from a book. Now, of course, I'm not a woman, and I'm also not an old man, so I can't confirm or deny the ideas discussed in this book. However, many of them are valuable to keep in mind, and I've been able to recognize many of the ideas discussed in this book in my short lifetime. But I think for most people, you'll simply need to identify the elements of the book in which you can benefit the most. There were a few topics in this book that I didn't discuss in detail, either because I didn't know how to develop them, or because they felt like a troubling matter to discuss. If you think it would be better to provide an uncensored, completely unbiased approach to my book reviews, directly reflecting the words of the author, without my view affecting it, let me know. An interesting thing I took away from this book was that sexual attraction is natural in everyday life. I've recently been concerned about the impact that the over-sexualization of the media has had on my mind, and I was conscious of my sexual thoughts within my mind, and was worried that having these thoughts was unhealthy. So this book provided me comfort in recognizing that the thoughts are natural, and not something to be concerned about. However, the important part is the way that you approach and control these thoughts. I strongly recommend reading this book and not just taking my word for the concepts explained. I can obviously only fit so much into a summary of a book, and there's significant value provided in this book, so much so that I can't condense it into one small summary. Even if you're not into the spiritual and romance areas of the book, Part 1 provides great value in understanding your desires and figuring out your professional life. Additionally, I worry that some of the concepts discussed here might be misleading if taken out of context. Therefore, if you find yourself particularly unhappy with an idea that I discussed in this video, perhaps reading the corresponding part of the book will help you gain a better understanding of the point that Deida intended to make. While writing this review, I realized that this book is actually something I'd really like to revisit. It has so many deep and complicated topics within it, of which are presented at a rapid pace. I feel as though this is a book that you'd have to read multiple times to truly come to terms with what is written and to understand how you feel in relation to the material written here. Approaching it with an open mind will enable you to benefit from reading this book. Having a closed view and not giving it the opportunity to present a different perspective if it offends you will lead to a sorely unfulfilling read. Thanks for watching my book review of The Way of the Superior Man by David Deida. Next Monday, we will be reviewing Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. This is currently my favorite book, and I'm really passionate about the topic that it discusses, so I'm really excited to share it with you. I think it's something every single person can benefit from reading in some way, or at the very least, watching my summary of it. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the upload, and like this video if you like the content today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.